First of all, welcome to the October 4th meeting of the Stockbridge Assessors. It's a hybrid meeting, and I'm just coming off a vacation, and I completely spaced, so I'm here on Zoom. But in any case, why don't you start, Mike?
Okay. I looked at last week's minutes, and the things that we needed to carry over are on this agenda as an update or a clarification. Number two, the CL1 forms for the chapter lands were mailed out, was it last week or the week before?
Last week.
And they're due back, they were due back October 1st, but you know, they come in whenever they come in, and we've gotten back a few of them so far. When we get the majority of them in, we'll present them for you guys to sign. Number three, this is one of the carryovers from last time, the Lambert application for Chapter 61B. Mr. Lambert, for some reason, there wasn't a application file because it's a new applicant. There was a forest management plan, and also the sign off by you, Gary, that you would typically do, but there was no actual application that was sent in. So I sent him one. He filled it out and brought it in. And the initial question before was it's a 61B recreational filing and being filed under a forest management plan, which we don't typically get. So there was a little confusion. I have a call into Peter Tucker, the who did the forest management plan. But in the meantime, I did get the application back from Mr. Lambert, who's very cooperative and very nice. And he's explained that it's being filed as a open space, not open to the public, which can be done under Chapter 61B. But again, I'm not particularly used to seeing those, so I just want to clear it with Peter and, you know, make sure before you guys sign off on anything that we're clear on the actual intent of the filing. So hopefully I'll hear from him this week, and we can put it on the agenda, our next agenda for you guys to vote on. And you can also vote on the rest of the CL ones that come in, and we'll do them as they come in instead of waiting until one big thing. But I think it is pretty clear that it should be allowed. But again, we need clarification because it's slightly different than what we're used to. Typically 61Bs are filed under recreational for that purpose, recreational, and they're open to the public. So I will do some more research on that. And we'll get back to Mr. Lambert as soon as we can, hopefully at the next meeting. Number four is we did get our LA4 and our LA13 certified by the Department of Revenue. That is basically the last step that we have to have on the assessor side in order to move forward with the steps to get the tax rate set. And the next step is having our tax classification. There weren't really any issues with the LA4 is the breakdown of all the classes of property. And that has to be submitted and certified by the Division of Local Services and Bureau of Local Assessment on a yearly basis. And the LA13, that is the certification of our new growth. And those both went through without any issues, and they were, I feel, done and certified in a timely manner. All the state officials are working from home, so it's taken a little bit longer than we're used to, but we did get them cleared and signed off on, which takes us to number 5. We're also working on the additional tax rate supporting documents, which are basically, we're done with the documents that we have to fill out, but the treasurer and the accountant have to fill out the rest of the forms. It's the debt exclusion form, the forms, the B1 and the B2, which are list the available funds in which we're using money from the town meeting. And there's things that are, there's a CPC form, CPA form that has to be filled out, which I really try to fill out, but it really has to be done by our accountant. And she's been working closely with Mike and Erica to get the balance sheet done, which is the most important thing because we don't have our free cash set yet. We don't need that actually set to have the tax classification, but it has to be in the package for the tax rate because you're either going to have the free cash available or you're going to have to acknowledge that the balance sheet is not ready and there's a form that has to be filled out by the accountant. We're trying to avoid that and we think we're going to. I have a feeling it's going to be submitted this week and we'll know what the free cash number is soon. But again, it's not needed in order to have the tax classification hearing. So we're all working on those. The number, I think what I'll do is I'll continue with number 7 and we'll get to number 6 because it's a continuation of what I'm talking about. The tax classification hearing is going to be next Thursday, October 14th, or the 2 Thursdays, October 14th at 6:30, I believe, in this office. And it will be a Zoom meeting and an in-person meeting. It's been advertised and the legal notice will appear in the Berkshire Eagle on Wednesday of this week. And I will clip that out because that needs to be sent into the DOR as proof of our meeting. And the preparation for this meeting that I typically do will be a little bit more involved this year. There will be the typical information that's provided to the Board of Selectmen about the ramifications of shifting our tax rate, because that is the primary reason that we're having a tax classification. It's to decide that if you're going to keep a residential factor of 1, that will continue historically a single tax rate in town, or if they're going to shift the tax rate to the commercial, industrial, personal property, and that's all done at that meeting. The other thing that's done at that meeting is the allowance of the residential exemption, open space discount, of which we don't do, and the commercial exemption. That is what we are working on currently now, is a study, a more advanced study than the one we did back in February. Tammy and I worked on basically going through the entire voters list and verifying what we think are the eligible parcels, just in case there is talks of the residential exemption and the passing of the residential exemption. We've talked about this before, and I don't really want to get into the whole, is it a good idea or a bad idea, because the board's made it very clear how they feel about it. But it is a hot topic, and it is something that I'm sure the second homeowners will have questions about as well. So that is, that information that I provide, we're hoping will be in digital form as well. And with the help of Mike Canales, he'll help me put that in the Zoom meeting during the meeting itself, and I'll have paper copies available. The second study that we did came out pretty close to the one we did in February, with a margin of error of about 50 to 60 accounts that we still can't verify. And it's always been brought up that the verification process for the residential exemption is very involved. And we did the best we could to come up with a solid number that we will present in the package to the selectmen. I'm hoping to have that ready by the end of the week, so they can have it to look at over the long weekend, at least the digital version of it. And, again, we will be prepared for this meeting on the 14th. And we're hoping that we'll have the tax rate set the following week. But again, it's all going to depend on how quickly. It'll depend on whether or not the residential exemption is passed, because that is a big deal. And that would involve a lot of work, which would, at this point, probably delay our tax bills. But putting that aside, on a typical year, when we're just dealing with trying to get the tax rate set, we can get that set the following week as long as the forms are finished and actually posted on Gateway. Because like I said, everything that we have to do is there, but we have weekly meetings now with department heads as far as what needs to be done to get the tax rate. That's the most important thing, getting that tax rate set and moving forward with getting our tax bills out, especially with the way things are right now. I mean, we're in that mode now that, let's get those bills out as quickly as we can, because, you never know with the pandemic or other things that could happen around the corner, and having that revenue source and having the tax bills out, hopefully, possibly by November 1st would be amazing. It would be great. And it'd be great for the town.
So Mike, just with regard to the classification hearing, just to be clear, that's a regularly scheduled select board meeting, correct?
It is. Yep, it is. There will be other things on the agenda. I don't think it, we were talking about scheduling it at different times, but typically for me, I've always just gone at the time that it started. And if there's something that's, more pressing, which I'm not sure which is more pressing than tax classification hearing, but if there is, I'll sit there and willing to give the presentation whenever they are ready to take me, whether it's first or later on at night. It's very important, and it's something that people should definitely, if you're interested in how the town tax rate process works, it's something that you should definitely tune into. And, we need to get this done as quickly as we can so we can move on and, try to get the tax rate set this year and get the bills out, at least the first, close to the time we had them out last year.
So given that the residential exemption, which is somewhat controversial, may come up, and there may be questions to the Board of Assessors, do you recommend that we attend, perhaps by Zoom, if not in person?
Yeah, I mean, if you can, that would be wonderful. Again, I will present the first part of the meeting is the choosing the residential factor, and then typically after that part will be the discussion on the other available items that the select board do have to vote on that night. It's not something that can be postponed. It is something that we have to have everything in place going into the very next day, when we typically start getting all the forms ready and the recap sheet ready to submit the tax rate. So yeah, it's I'm hoping that not a lot of stuff that's other things that are on the agenda, because I have a feeling it might be a longer meeting because of the emphasis on the other available options, which the residential exemption is one of them. Do you have any comments about that, Gary?
No, everything sounds good.
Okay. So then we'll switch to number 6. The appellate tax board case for the DeSisto property has been postponed. It was supposed to be September 28th, but upon request by their attorney, that will now be rescheduled to January 12th of next year. And within that time period, I'm hoping we receive an appraisal from Mr. Whitkin, who is their attorney. I believe that may be why they had to postpone. And again, this is the second postponement, but if we decided that we weren't going to postpone, Mr. Whitkin can always petition the appellate tax board to have it postponed. And why create hard feelings at this point, when it's just a few months away, to allow them to, and it allows us at the same time also, if we have questions through interrogatories that we want to ask him, the deal is whatever information he submits to the appellate tax board, whether it's before the hearing or at the day of the hearing, he has to provide the Board of Assessors with as well. I had to do that with all the jurisdictional information that the appellate tax board has to receive before they even look at the case. So I'm hoping I don't have to resend or re-email all of the jurisdictional documents because they have all of them, but I have them all in digital form. They won't change going forward. It'll give me a little bit more time also to gather some more information and see what, there was a rumor that they were switching attorneys, but I verified with Mark Whitkin that that's not the case. There was a mishap at the appellate tax board because they have many attorneys where they work and they represent many different communities in Massachusetts. So he is still the attorney for the Sheehan property. And any discussions going forward will be an executive session about this case. And I basically, and as long as you guys are okay, just let them get the work done that they need to get done. He did mention speaking to you, Tom, about, I know what we had initially talked about at our meeting. So I wouldn't be surprised if you get a phone call or an email.
I would be happy if you would do that. There are a number of issues involved that we had a very candid discussion about when he was before our board.
Okay.
And by the way, when he presented, that was executive session.
Yes.
I remember.
Absolutely. Yep.
So just for the sake of transparency in public, is it appropriate to just touch on some of the issues in this meeting, or is it best left for the executive sessions?
It's probably, I would think it's probably best for the executive session because we haven't discussed, I've only discussed things with the attorney and not Mr. Sheehan.
Okay, would you would agree with that, Gary?
Yes, I would, yeah.
Okay.
And really that's it for everything that's involved with the tax rate. Tom, I don't know. You did have a meeting, but I think you mentioned.
I think I reported on the meeting at our previous meeting, and my next update on the pilot committee will be for our next meeting.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Peter, did you want to address Peter? Does he have any questions?
No, I think, Peter, as we discussed, we submitted your name. And I think you want to the Board of Selectmen, and you said at the very beginning, before we formally started, that you were, just to be on the side of caution, you wanted to check any potential conflict of interest in terms of being part of the pilot committee. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I don't think there's one. What I wrote to the selectmen is that to the extent there's anything particular about the SBA that comes up, I obviously won't participate. And within the SBA, I won't participate in anything that comes from this committee. And that seems to me to be quite enough, perhaps too much. The conflict rules are stated in terms of businesses. The SBA is not a business, but it obviously does have some financial interest in what the pilot committee comes up with ultimately.
Since this is a public,
to do with what the questionnaire asks.
just since this is a public meeting, can you spell out what the FDA is?
Excuse me?
Can you spell out?
The Stockbridge, yes, the Stockbridge Board, Stockbridge Bowl Association. Sorry.
Okay, the SBA, the Stockbridge Bowl Association. Yeah. Well, I personally don't see a conflict there, but as you say, just to be sure.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. I have one other thing. It's just basically about an upcoming meeting. The fall meeting for the Berkshire County Assessors Association is going to be October 28th, and we have to get the notification. This is as long as we're still allowed to have meetings in a restaurant. It's going to be at Zucchini's on the 28th from 8:30 till 2. And registration has to be in by the 20th. So I have to get it in this week. just if anyone's interested, and Gary, if you're interested in going, or Tom, that it's $30 for the members, which we have the money for that. And it's going to be statutory exemptions and what's new at the MAAO. And then in the afternoon, the new bureau chief at the DOR, Christopher Wilcock and Sandra Brusso, are going to be talking about, there's a solar update. I don't exactly know what the update is yet because I missed their last meeting. And then there's going to be a lunch. Then after the lunch, Chris and Sandra are going to talk about what's new at the Bureau of Local Assessment, which is going to be interesting because he's brand new. And he's replacing Joanne Graziano, who's been there forever. And then questions and answers, and it adjourns at 2:00. So you don't have to tell me today, but if you want to, I need to get this in by probably midweek.
Mike, what is the date?
October 28th, Thursday.
And has there been any talk of having this hybrid meeting for some of the sessions?
I don't think it's going to be. We talked about, we haven't had a meeting in 2 years, a group meeting because of COVID. The one we had last year was strictly a Zoom meeting. So I'm on the committee, but no discussion has been brought up about it being a hybrid meeting. I think it's either going to be one or the other. If by some chance it gets canceled, I think they're going to do it by Zoom. But we're very unsure of what's going to happen. We're going forward with, the meeting itself, but we'll see it's going to be up to Zucchini's and what they want us to do. But I mean, I have to be there. I'd go anyway, because I'm on the committee. There is going to be a annual meeting. An election of officers is going to happen beforehand. So I don't know who's being nominated this year. I think they have someone in mind to be on the board. So it's up to you guys. Tammy, you're going to go, right? Okay. So Tammy and I will be there. Typically Gary goes, but it's open to you and Doug too, if you want to.
Okay, well, I personally would be influenced.
But if I do find out, I think we're having a meeting next Wednesday, the Berkshire County Assessors Association. If it's brought up that it's going to be Zoom as well, I'll make sure that you know that.
Good, okay.
Yep. And that's it for new business.
Remember, he has to close, Gary has to.
Yep, Gary has to close the meeting, yep.
Mike, do we need to sign anything?
No,
Nothing,
Okay.
nothing.
no. The next meeting, you'll have motor vehicle and the chapter land forms.
All right, just double checking. Okay, well, I make a motion from the chair that we close the meeting.
Second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.